Have you ever felt exhausted after a conversation that never really went anywhere? A talk filled with small jokes, empty gossip, or meaningless updates that left you wondering, why did I even listen to this? If you have, it's because you are not built to thrive on noise. You are built to thrive on depth. For most people, the chatter of the world is enough. They scroll through endless feeds of distraction, chasing entertainment after entertainment, never realizing that their soul is starving. But you are different. You cannot be fed by noise. You cannot survive on surfaces. You require substance, conversations, ideas, and experiences that carry weight, that touch the essence of being, that ignite something far deeper than a passing laugh. When you crave depth, you are seeking connection that penetrates beyond words. You want to know not just what someone does, but why they do it. You want to hear not just their stories, but their struggles, their fears, their triumphs, and their hidden scars. You don't care about the glitter they show to the world. You care about the truths they bury, because it is in those truths that real humanity reveals itself. Depth is uncomfortable for many, which is why noise dominates the world. Noise is safe. Noise is easy. Noise allows people to hide behind masks and never expose the core of who they are. But when you enter a room, your energy pulls people into a different dimension. They feel the weight of your gaze, the sincerity in your questions, the intensity in your presence. You don't want to know what someone ate for lunch. You want to know what keeps them awake at night. You don't want to hear rehearsed answers. You want to hear the unspoken, the untold, the unfinished chapters of their lives. And this is why some people feel uncomfortable around you. They sense that they cannot fool you with surfaces. They sense that their noise will not impress you because you see straight through it. While others may applaud someone for flashy words or shallow charm, you sit quietly, waiting for something real. And when it does not come, you feel restless. Because you cannot pretend to be satisfied with noise. It leaves you hungrier than before. You crave depth not only in others, but in yourself. You cannot stand still in your own growth. You read not just to pass time, but to awaken something within. You think not just to analyze, but to expand. You question your own beliefs, your own habits, your own choices, because you are not afraid of diving deep into the unknown parts of your own psyche. You know that the greatest treasures are hidden in the darkest waters, and you are willing to dive where others only skim. This craving for depth is also why you often feel isolated. The world celebrates noise because it is easy to consume, while depth requires energy, vulnerability, and courage. Few are willing to pay that price. So you may find yourself sitting in silence when others laugh over trivialities, or staring into space when conversations drift into gossip. You may feel like you don't belong because your hunger is not the same as theirs. They are content with crumbs, but you are searching for a feast. And yet, those rare moments when you find someone who shares your hunger, those are the moments that feed your soul. A single deep conversation can feel more nourishing than 100 casual exchanges. A single genuine connection can be more valuable than 1,000 surface-level interactions. That is what you live for. That is what keeps you searching. Depth is your compass. It guides how you speak, how you listen, how you choose, how you love. It is the reason you sometimes feel like an outsider in a world addicted to noise. But it is also the reason your presence carries a power that few can ignore. You are not here to skim the surface of life. You are here to dive into its oceans, to touch its depths, and to bring back treasures that most people will never even know exist. There is a quiet rebellion that lives inside you. It is not the kind that waves flags or shouts in the streets. It is the kind that refuses to bow to what feels false, the kind that resists being molded into shapes that do not fit your soul. While the majority move along with the current, you cannot simply drift. You resist conformity, not because you want to be difficult, not because you crave attention, but because something within you refuses to betray itself. From an early age, you may have noticed it. While others were eager to fit in, eager to be accepted, eager to be praised, you hesitated. You questioned, you asked why. And when no good answer came, you quietly decided you would not play the same game. Teachers may have called it stubbornness, friends may have called it strangeness, but deep down you knew it was authenticity. To conform means to silence the voice inside that whispers, "This is not me." And for you, that silence is unbearable. It is like suffocating in plain air. Conformity demands masks, but you cannot wear one without feeling the weight of dishonesty pressing against your spirit. You watch as people around you trade pieces of themselves just to be accepted by the crowd, but you know that acceptance without authenticity is an empty victory. You resist conformity because freedom matters more to you than approval. Approval is fickle. It changes with trends, with mood, with shifting opinions. What people cheer for today, they will mock tomorrow. But freedom, the freedom to be yourself without apology, is unshakable. And you would rather endure judgment, isolation, even misunderstanding, than surrender that freedom. This resistance often makes you stand out, even when you don't try to. In a room full of agreement, your silence becomes a statement. In a crowd shouting the same slogans, your refusal to chant is louder than their noise. People notice you not because you force them to, but because your authenticity cannot be ignored. They may not always like it, but they cannot deny it. Of course, resisting conformity is not easy. It costs you comfort, it costs you belonging. Sometimes it costs you relationships. People often prefer those who mirror them, who reassure them that their way is the only way. When you stand apart, it challenges them. It reminds them of choices they never dared to make, of questions they never dared to ask. Some will resent you for it. Others will fear you for it. But a few, the rare few, will respect you for it, even if they never say it aloud. And deep within, you know this resistance is not just about you. It is about truth itself. Progress has never been made by those who blindly followed. Every idea that changed the world began as defiance against conformity. Every great soul who left an imprint did so by refusing to kneel before the false gods of comfort, obedience, and tradition. You sense this lineage and you carry it forward, even if in small ways. You resist conformity not only in society, but in your inner life. You question your own habits, your own assumptions, your own beliefs. You know that conforming to yourself, repeating patterns without reflection, is just as dangerous as conforming to the crowd. And so you keep breaking your own molds, reshaping yourself, refusing to stagnate. There is a fire in you that says, "I will not betray myself to be accepted." That fire burns quietly but fiercely. It guides your steps when everyone else walks in the same direction. It gives you courage when your voice is the only one speaking differently. It reminds you that standing alone with truth is far more powerful than standing with the many in falsehood most people dread being alone. They fill every silence with noise, every empty space with distraction, every quiet moment with endless activity. To them, solitude feels like a void, a place where loneliness creeps in and fear begins to whisper. But for you, solitude is not a void, it is a sanctuary. Where others see emptiness, you see depth. Where others feel abandoned, you feel embraced. Solitude is not your prison, it is your freedom. When you find comfort in solitude, you begin to see what so many miss, the difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness comes when you are disconnected from yourself. Solitude comes when you are deeply connected to yourself. Loneliness drains the spirit, but solitude nourishes it. That is why you can sit in silence, away from the world, and feel more alive than in a room full of noise. In solitude, you hear what the world drowns out. You hear your own thoughts without interruption. You hear your intuition whispering the truths you overlook in the rush of daily life. You hear the voice of clarity rising above the chaos, telling you what really matters and what was never important at all. It is in these moments of aloneness that your spirit regenerates. Solitude becomes the soil where your inner strength grows roots. For most, solitude is uncomfortable because it strips away distractions. Without the noise of others, without the endless movement of the crowd, they are forced to face themselves, and many fear what they will find. But you are different. You do not fear your own company. You do not run from your thoughts. You do not need constant external stimulation to feel whole. You can sit in silence with nothing but your breath and feel a sense of wholeness that others chase endlessly in the outside world. This comfort in solitude makes you stronger in ways few understand. While others depend on validation, you cultivate independence. While others seek constant approval, you find inner assurance. While others crumble when left alone, you build yourself up in the quiet. This strength is invisible to the world, but it radiates in the way you carry yourself, in the way you walk into a room without needing to be noticed, in the way you hold your ground even when no one stands beside you. Solitude also deepens your creativity. In silence, ideas unfold. In stillness, visions form. Great thinkers, creators, and innovators have always turned to solitude, not as an escape from the world, but as a way to see the world more clearly. You too find that when you step away from the noise, inspiration flows more freely. Solutions reveal themselves. Creativity takes shape. What others chase in chaos, you discover in stillness. And there is another truth about solitude. It sharpens your relationships. Because you are comfortable being alone, you do not cling to others out of fear. You do not settle for shallow connections just to fill space. Instead, you seek authenticity. You choose to share your time only with those who add value, who bring depth, who match your energy. Solitude teaches you that being alone is better than being surrounded by the wrong company, and that realization sets you free from toxic attachments. You find comfort in solitude because it reminds you of your essence. When the world tries to pull you in 1,000 directions, solitude brings you back to your center. It strips away the masks you wear for others, the roles you play in society, and leaves you face to face with the most authentic version of yourself. And in that meeting, you discover not loneliness, but peace. Most people look at the world and see randomness. They see scattered events, disconnected moments, unrelated experiences. To them, life is chaos, a storm of circumstances they cannot understand, only endure. but you are different. Where others see confusion, you see design. Where others see noise, you see rhythm. Where others see chaos, you see patterns quietly weaving meaning into what seems meaningless. This ability sets you apart because it changes how you move through the world. When most people panic in uncertainty, you pause. When they despair in disorder, you search. And what you find are hidden links, subtle signs, small details that form a bigger picture. To others, your insight looks like intuition, even magic. But you know it is not magic. It is the ability to notice what others overlook, to connect threads that others never knew existed. Seeing patterns is not about predicting the future in some mystical sense. It is about reading the currents of human behavior, the flow of cause and effect, the repetition of cycles that history, nature, and life itself endlessly reveal. You recognize that nothing happens in isolation. Every choice, every word, every action plants a seed that grows into consequences. While others are shocked by outcomes, you have already seen the trail of signs leading there. This gift can feel heavy at times. You notice too much. You sense dynamics in relationships that others ignore. You feel undercurrents in conversations that people pretend aren't there. You can walk into a room and pick up on the unspoken tensions, the hidden truths, the quiet signals that others miss. It makes you aware, but sometimes it also makes you restless, because once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. And yet, this awareness is also a strength. It keeps you from being easily deceived. It helps you navigate situations with wisdom while others are caught off guard. When the world feels chaotic, you remind yourself that chaos is rarely chaos. It is simply a pattern not yet recognized. You understand that order often hides beneath disorder, and that if you stay patient, the design will eventually reveal itself. This ability also gives you resilience. When life shifts suddenly, when plans collapse, when the unexpected strikes, most people break under the weight of not knowing what comes next. But you search for the underlying structure, the lesson, the hidden doorway in the storm. You are not easily blinded by crisis because you know that every storm has an architecture, every downfall a blueprint, every challenge a hidden path that leads forward. You also bring this gift into how you understand people. You recognize recurring behaviors, subtle expressions, repeated choices that reveal character more than words ever could. While others take people at face value, you see deeper. You see the loop of actions that reveal who they truly are. This allows you to protect yourself, to choose wisely, and to invest in relationships that carry truth instead of illusion. And beyond survival, this gift shapes your vision. You do not just see patterns in what is, you imagine patterns in what could be. You see how small changes ripple outward, how one idea can spark transformation, how one seed of effort can grow into forests of impact. That is why your mind feels different. It is not satisfied with fragments. It wants to assemble, to connect, to create a bigger picture from the scattered pieces of life. Where others complain about chaos, you look deeper. Where others stop at confusion, you continue searching. Where others give up, you lean in because you know the truth. That behind the appearance of disorder, there is always a pattern waiting to be seen. To carry empathy is to carry fire. It is not something passive, not something soft, not simply a kind gesture or a polite smile. True empathy is a flame, bright, consuming, illuminating, and when you carry it, you cannot help but feel its heat, its weight, and its undeniable power. Most people brush past others without noticing their inner world. They hear words, but they do not feel the emotions beneath them. They see faces, but they do not sense the stories written in the lines of those faces. But you are different. You step into another's experience as though it were your own. Their joy sparks warmth within you. Their pain stirs your heart. Their silence speaks to you in ways others overlook. You don't just hear what is said. You absorb what is unspoken. This flame of empathy is both gift and burden. On one hand, it allows you to connect deeply. You can comfort someone with more than words because you feel what they feel. You know when their laughter hides sorrow, when their confidence covers fear, when their strength is masking exhaustion. Your presence becomes a shelter, a safe space where people can lay down their masks because they sense you will not judge them. You will understand. On the other hand, empathy makes the world heavier for you. You carry not only your struggles, but the struggles of others. Their wounds burn within you. Their suffering lingers long after the conversation ends. Sometimes it feels as though you are holding flames in your bare hands, beautiful, but searing. And yet, you do not let go. Because you know that your flame, even when it burns, has the power to light up someone else's darkness. To carry empathy like a flame is to live with awareness. You notice the small tremble in someone's voice when they insist they are fine. You notice the way their eyes flicker when a certain subject arises. You notice the pauses, the sighs, the restless gestures that reveal what words never say. And because you notice, you respond differently. You do not dismiss or ignore. You lean closer. You listen deeper. You offer presence instead of platitudes. Empathy also shapes your strength. Many believe empathy makes you fragile, but in truth, it makes you resilient. To feel so deeply and yet keep moving forward is not weakness, it is courage. To open your heart again and again, even after being hurt, is not foolishness, it is strength. Your flame may flicker, but it does not die, because you know the world needs more light, not less. And while empathy makes you vulnerable, it also makes you powerful. You influence without forcing, you lead without demanding, you heal without claiming credit. People remember how you made them feel long after they forget your words. They remember the warmth of your flame in their coldest moments, and that memory becomes a guiding spark in their own lives. Empathy also fuels your vision for humanity. You cannot look at the world with indifference because you feel its wounds as though they were your own. Injustice burns you, cruelty disturbs you, apathy unsettles you. And while others turn away, you are compelled to act, even in small ways, even in gestures unseen by the world. Because for you, empathy is not an abstract value. It is a living fire that demands expression. You carry empathy like a flame, and that flame shapes the way you love, the way you listen, the way you live. It shapes your choices, your relationships, your very presence. It may burn you at times, but it also illuminates everything around you. And though most people may not understand the depth of what you feel, they cannot deny the warmth of what you bring. There comes a moment in life when you realize that fitting in has a price. The smiles, the nods, the approval. It all seems comforting until you recognize what it truly costs. See pieces of yourself. Most people are willing to pay that price. They bend, they mold, they wear masks just to be accepted, but not you. Because deep down, you know acceptance without authenticity is empty. You value truth over approval, authenticity over acceptance. This choice sets you apart from the crowd. To value authenticity means you are willing to stand alone rather than join a circle that demands you betray yourself. It means you would rather speak your truth and risk disapproval than bite your tongue and suffocate in silence. It means you carry a kind of courage that unsettles people because it reveals how much of their lives are built on pretending. When you choose authenticity, you are not choosing the easy path. Acceptance is easier. Conformity is safer. Pretending brings quicker rewards. But those rewards are hollow. They may win you applause, but they leave you feeling disconnected from your own soul. You know this? That is why you refuse to play the game. To you, there is no prize worth the loss of your own essence. Authenticity requires honesty, not just with others, but with yourself. It demands that you confront your fears, your flaws, your contradictions. It demands that you admit when you are wrong, that you reveal your wounds, that you allow yourself to be seen not as perfect, but as real. And though this vulnerability feels risky, it is the very thing that gives you strength. Because what is authentic cannot be destroyed. It is too rooted, too true, too solid to be shaken by passing opinions. Those who value acceptance above all else may look at you with confusion. They cannot understand why you would risk rejection when blending in is so much simpler. But they do not see what you see. They do not feel what you feel. They do not know the cost of silencing your own truth just to belong. You have tasted that silence and you refuse to return to it. This commitment to authenticity changes how you move through life. In relationships, you do not settle for shallow connections built on pretense. You demand depth, honesty, and alignment. In work, you do not sacrifice your integrity for quick success or cheap recognition. You want your actions to reflect your values, your contributions to reflect your soul. Even in solitude, you refuse to lie to yourself just to feel more comfortable. And though this path can be lonely at times, it also attracts the right people. Those who are drawn to your authenticity are the ones who are ready to meet you at that same level of truth. They do not want your mask, they want your essence. And that kind of connection, though rare, is worth more than the acceptance of 1,000 people who only know a version of you that isn't real. To value authenticity over acceptance is to live with freedom. You are not enslaved by the need to please. You are not shackled by the fear of judgment. You are not defined by how others see you. You live by your own compass, guided by the principle that truth, even when it costs you acceptance, is the only foundation strong enough to build a life upon. There are people who walk into a room and immediately draw attention, not because they are loud, not because they demand it, not because they boast, but simply because their presence carries a weight that cannot be ignored. You are one of those people. You intimidate without trying. You do not raise your voice. You do not have to prove yourself. You do not seek dominance. And yet, your very being unsettles those who live on the surface. Intimidation is often misunderstood. Many think it comes from aggression, from imposing authority, from a display of power. But true intimidation often comes quietly. It comes from authenticity, from confidence, from the refusal to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You intimidate not because you try to, but because you embody qualities that others wish they had but are afraid to develop within themselves. Your ability to stand firm in who you are makes people restless. They sense that you are not easily swayed by trends, opinions, or shallow validation. You do not need to be liked to feel secure. You do not chase acceptance to feel worthy. That independence makes those who depend on approval question themselves. It makes them uncomfortable, not because you have done anything to them, but because your presence silently exposes their own insecurities. There is also something in the way you carry yourself. You do not hide your depth. You do not disguise your intelligence. You do not dull your insight to blend in. When you speak, people listen. Not because you force them to, but because your words carry weight. When you remain silent, people still feel your energy, focused, grounded, unshaken. It unsettles those who are used to controlling the room with noise because they realize that real power does not need to shout. This unintentional intimidation can sometimes isolate you. People may label you as distant, arrogant, or unapproachable, when in truth you are simply being yourself. They project their fears onto you because they cannot understand why your presence makes them feel small. What they do not realize is that you are not diminishing them. You are simply refusing to diminish yourself. And yet, the same quality that intimidates, some also inspires others. There are people who will be drawn to your strength, your authenticity, your quiet confidence. They will see in you what they long to awaken in themselves. They may not say it aloud, but they will remember how you made them feel, not with fear, but with an unshakable respect. To intimidate without trying is not a curse, it is a reflection of your alignment with yourself. You are not performing. You are not begging for recognition. You are not competing. You are simply existing in truth. And truth, by its very nature, unsettles illusions. Those who live by masks will feel exposed in your presence. Those who thrive on manipulation will feel powerless around you. Those who rely on shallow charm will feel inadequate next to your substance. But those who are ready for honesty, depth, and strength will feel seen, challenged, and inspired. You intimidate without trying because you are proof that it is possible to live without shrinking, to walk without begging, to exist without compromise. Your life is a silent reminder that real power does not demand attention. It commands it naturally through authenticity, courage, and presence. Some people enter a room and nothing changes. They blend into the background, unnoticed, unremembered, leaving no mark behind. But you are different. When you walk into a space, something shifts. It is not just your physical presence, it is the energy you bring, the weight of your spirit, the atmosphere you create without even realizing it. You transform environments. Transformation does not require you to be the loudest voice or the center of attention. In fact, your power often shows itself in subtle ways. The tone of a conversation changes when you speak. The tension in the air eases when you listen. The direction of a discussion shifts when you ask a single question. People may not even realize it consciously, but they feel it. The invisible force of your presence reshaping what is happening around you. You transform environments because you do not simply exist within them, you engage with them. You sense the undercurrents, the moods, the unsaid emotions flowing beneath the surface, and you respond in a way that alters the balance. If there is chaos, your clarity steadies it. If there is fear, your courage confronts it. If there is dishonesty, your authenticity exposes it. You do not just adapt to the room adapts to you. This is why people often remember you even after brief encounters. They may not recall every word you said, but they remember how they felt in your presence. They remember the way you made them reflect, the way you made them feel seen, or the way you made them question what they once accepted without thought. Your influence lingers long after you leave, like a fragrance that cannot be erased. But transformation is not always comfortable. Sometimes your presence unsettles people. They feel seen in ways they did not expect, challenged in ways they were not ready for. You may disrupt their illusions simply by standing in truth. They may resist you, criticize you, or misunderstand you, not because you have done them harm, but because you have awakened something they were not prepared to face. This is the paradox of transformation. It can feel like both healing and disruption, depending on where a person stands. Still, this quality is not a burden, it is a gift. Environments need transformation. Rooms filled with complacency need to be stirred. Spaces drowned in negativity need to be lifted. Communities stuck in falsehood need a spark of honesty. Your very presence acts as that spark. You do not force change, but change unfolds naturally around you because your energy does not allow stagnation. This power extends beyond people into the way you interact with life itself. When you enter a workplace, you influence its culture. When you join a project, you elevate its standard. When you engage in conversations, you push them toward meaning. Even in silence, you radiate an energy that either calms or awakens those nearby. It is not about control, it is about resonance. You carry an inner frequency that shifts the outer environment. And though you may not always see it, others feel it. The quiet observer in the corner who hears your words and rethinks their choices. The colleague who suddenly feels inspired to give more effort. The friend who finds courage simply because you stood unapologetically in your truth. These transformations are rarely announced, but they ripple outward, touching lives in ways that go far beyond the immediate moment. To transform environments is to be a living reminder that spaces are not fixed, that energy is not neutral, that one person's authenticity can shift the atmosphere for everyone present. It is the power of influence without manipulation, of presence without performance, of truth without compromise,